Okay, if we turn our attention to the 3 ranked versus ranked games, okay, we've got number 2 Ohio State against number 3 Oregon, number 1 Texas against number 18 Oklahoma. By the way, 3 number 18 teams in this week's poll. Ridiculous.
Is that true?
That is true. There are 3 teams that are all 18.
And there are 2 teams. These stupid rankings already.
Right.
It's so stupid.
There are 2 teams that are number 11. Okay, whatever. And then we also have number 9 Ole Miss at number 13 LSU. If you ranked the 3 ranked versus ranked games, okay, in terms of your interest level, I would assume Ohio State, Oregon is at the top of your list. Where does it go from there? Is it Ole Miss, LSU, and then Texas, Oklahoma? How do you get down with that, Rich?
Yeah, I think it goes that way. I think you have it in that correct order. And like you said, it's Ohio State, Oregon with a bullet. And here's actually a very different angle to look at this game that I'm curious how you guys react to. My interest in this game is to see what happens to 2 teams that have made an insane financial investment in their roster. These are basically 2 full-on professional football teams playing against each other now. I mean, when we look at name, image, and likeness money at schools like Ohio State and Oregon, where Phil Knight he wants a championship back in Eugene before he dies. He's in his early 80s. That guy has more money than God. So Oregon's going to get everything they need to win a championship. Ohio State, we know what the Buckeye alumni and fan base are like. This is like a heavyweight title fight in terms of name, image, and likeness money, and I know nobody likes to talk about that, but this is going to set precedent. This is going to set up future dollar earnings for college athletes. I mean, again, this is going to be one of those things that still burns on the back burner for a while, but we're heading to either an impasse where they change the rules and the Wild West is kind of reeled in and we have some rules in place that forbid teams to spend during certain windows, or maybe there's some regulation put on the spending. But this is, I mean, in no uncertain terms, 2 professional football teams taking each other on, and the stakes could not be higher considering how much turnover we've seen in the top 5 already so far this season.
God just called. He's looking for an NIL deal from Phil Knight. Heavenly Bodies, Inc. He could use a little extra cash.
That's right.
I mean, Texas and Oklahoma's got this, it's got this vibe about it, but it's a little different this year. They pushed it back, right? It's an SEC game now, and there's another number 1 team. There's no surprise there. In fact, that matchup actually has the 3rd most matchups when one of the teams has been number 1 of any other matchup. Notre Dame, USC, Oklahoma, Nebraska, the other 2. So that one's got some prestige to it. But, yeah, it's Ohio State, Oregon. I think that's the one that's going to impact the college football playoff the most. It'll be the first leg up in what is becoming the Big Ten race. Now, I know the SEC is still the SEC, and there's some SEC people out there that might be really upset that I say this. But not a whole lot of undefeated teams left in the SEC. Big Ten? Go ahead, bud.
No, yeah, I thought you were done. My bad. But
no, you're good.
Yeah, with what Rich was saying, it's pretty interesting because I can just picture, let's just say Jeremiah Smith makes a huge play in the game tonight, stud wide receiver for Ohio State. If I'm one of Phil Knight's buddies, I'd be like, he'd look good in a Ducks uniform, wouldn't he? Wouldn't he? Wouldn't he look good in a Ducks uniform right now? Because think about this. You're so right, Rich, where yeah, there's no speed limit. It's the Autobahn right now in college football. And I'm all for these kids getting paid. I have no issue with it whatsoever. But I do wonder, in a sport that doesn't have a speed limit, how high the dollar amounts go, right? Because Phil Knight could spend conceivably whatever he wanted to get whomever in a Ducks uniform, or that goes for any booster around the country. Where I just wonder how high the dollar amounts go. There hasn't been anything yet to really make our eyes bug out. You know what I mean? Like, there isn't a dollar amount where they're like, they're spending $35 million per season on this, or whatever. You know what I mean? It hasn't gotten there, but it just makes me wonder, how far away are we from that time? And again, I'm not discouraging the young players getting paid. I just wonder how high the money goes, because it's gradually getting higher. And with a game today like Ohio State, Oregon, where imagine, again, like Ohio State, this kid that makes a huge play wins the game, you can't help but think of Phil Knight and these really wealthy boosters. They're going to be thinking, man, we should have that guy. We just lost because we don't have that guy. We should have that guy, right? It's just going to keep growing that way.
Yeah, I've been in the broadcast booth every week of the college football season, and I wouldn't name names, but I can't tell you how many conversations I've been involved with multiple college athletic department personnel from multiple different schools, where the conversation quickly goes toward, I mean, we don't know how to keep everyone happy, and it's impossible. So there is going to be an insane amount of roster turnover year after year after year, because every time a kid throws a deep pass, like you mentioned, Jeremiah Smith tonight potentially, and a touchdown is scored on a long reception, or anytime a quarterback has a stat line that, you know, makes your eyes bug out looking at the paper, or anytime a running back has a 100-yard game, or an edge rusher gets a 2-sack game, all you're hearing is the cash register in the near distance going ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. Like, how do we keep this guy on campus? It is going to be a problem for a lot of schools, especially schools in the smaller conferences, obviously outside of the Big Four right now. The Group of Five conferences are really going to struggle retaining their rosters, but so will the FBS team, or I should say the Big Four teams, in terms of the power conferences, because, like you mentioned, if a wealthy enough donor at school A sees school B's receiver and says, hey, tell me how much I got to put on the check, we want him, then it's done, because there's no rules.
And we just saw this with Vandy right after the game. Pavia tweeted out his agent's number. Hey, call, NIL available. Like, it's like an infomercial. It's kind of sick and twisted, but it's also business. And to your point, Brian, I agree with you. These kids deserve their money, but we need to do it in an orderly fashion to where it's not just the ATM gets blown up and kids are in the streets pulling off dollar bills from the corner. Like, it has to be organized. Right now, it's not. It's chaos. It's literal chaos. It's a literal money grab. I mean, literally, and I know literally people don't like that word. The guy who is the only NIL guy on Vandy basically said, here you go. Here's the number. Call this number, get paid. Like, right after the game. That's where it is. It's not celebrate, talk to your family, do all those things. It's get your money. And that's what college football is now. It is professional, semi-professional football. Yeah. We need to call it what it is, and we need to treat it like it is. And again, it is what it is. But this isn't love of the game anymore. It's not. Not even at Vandy. So it's just a totally different landscape, and we need to start framing our minds to look at it that way, because it's not what it was a few years ago. It is vastly different.
No, it is. It reminds me of, as you're explaining that, Jared, like the radio bits where a listener stands in the little bin, and the money's flying around. They have the air. They're trying to grab the.
It's the phrase that pays. Winning. That's the phrase that pays these days.
I know that's what it's turned into. But hey, man, things have changed drastically, and I know there are a lot of fans that don't like the new way. I really don't have an issue with it, but we've talked about it before. It's like, you can be for something without being for every single little morsel connected to it, right? Like, it has the NIL day and age. I was an advocate for it. I think it's the better way to do things. It's only fair that they get a fair share of the pie. They're not even getting the pie. They're getting their own pie.
Yeah.
And they generate all this cash, so I don't have an issue with it. But, it does create some things that are not ideal and can throw you off. In any event, we've got Rich Ohrnberger, who's fired up today, former Penn State All-American. We've got Jared Smith, who is just geeked out of his mind here today, ready to go for these
It's
monster
the best Saturday of
matchups.
the regular season. It
It really is. FSR betting analyst. I'm Brian Noe. It's football time at BetMGM. Use code COUNTDOwn and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, signature bets, and the best daily promotions in the business. Download the BetMGM app today or visit BetMGM.com. Use code COUNTDOWN to receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if that bet loses.